Hello, my name is Marktoon, and this is my channel, Marktoon's Doodles. So this is a photograph of me taken last year in 2019, in November, for my 50th birthday. We were in Hawaii at the time, a birthday present from my wife, Leanne, and I look very happy because I'm actually enjoying myself immensely in Hawaii. Right now, I'm stuck in lockdown during the coronavirus pandemic. And to keep myself sane, I decided it was time for me to showcase some doodles from my favorite hobby, cartooning. I'm also doing this because my cousin Jenny in Canada is not feeling very well at the moment, and I know my own subtle sense of humor cheers her up. So she's always been on at me to showcase my talents to the wider world, and this is what I'm going to do now. So, Jenny, this video is dedicated to you, and I hope you're feeling better real soon, and thank you for being my biggest fan. So, as you may have guessed, my accent is South African. However, I have lived in the UK for the past 22 years, in Scotland. I am a project manager by day, but I spend a lot of my free time doodling. It's one of my favorite hobbies, and it's how I de-stress. My first figures were basically just stickmen. This one was used by a company who had a house moving business. This one was used by a company who had a telephone sales call presentation. This little ghost, somebody in Canada with a yacht wanted it as a special image for the back of their yacht. So after I'd completed the image and sent it to the gentleman, he had a sign painter added to the back of his yacht. I've also done various birthday cards for some of my friends and family. A lady asked me to do a rat race around the world image, and this is what I came up with. This image was for some of my friends who were getting married. They were part of my fantasy roleplay group, so this is why the people all look like they're in medieval clothes. I did some cartoons for a training company who wanted caricatures of their trainers. A very glum office worker ready for another day. This gentleman asked me for a caricature for his website, which he was setting up for a charity, and he'd asked me to get his character holding money and pointing at the viewer, making sure that they knew he was wanting some money. A little stick figure insect, which I used for another presentation. This worried Santa I used on some company Christmas cards that went out. And a little baby red dragon. I started to think about developing my own characters, and so what I did was I came up with these little guys called the blobs. They were cute, easy to draw, and very eye-catching. And as I drew more of them and posted them online, they caught the eye of a teacher in the United States who was teaching English to some immigrant students. And she wanted them because they were helping to convey some of the words that she was hoping to teach her students. So she asked me to do quite a lot of them, and I think they're still up in her classroom to this day. I started drawing cartoons when I was around 10 years old. I was a big fan of the Casper the Friendly Ghost of the Richie Rich comic books, and I wanted to come up with my own cartoon characters. A friend of mine, Wayne Baxter, and I used to sit and draw cartoon strips with little stick figures for hours on end. The initial characters were very basic. To differentiate some of them, we had them wearing hats, or the girls had little skirts. Eventually, as we started to improve in our skills, we added a little bit more detail in terms of the feet and the hands and the bodies. And then eventually we moved on to adding clothes, and the hands became a little bit better detailed. We had fingers now, but the faces were still very basic. Again, with a lot of practice, we started adding ears, nose, eyes, details to the faces. And eventually, over time, I was able to develop my skills so that I could do a range of characters and expressions and different body types. When I'm sketching, I start with a rough sketch, usually with pencil. I do use Sharpie marker pens because I just find them the easiest to use. After scanning it into the computer, I neaten up the drawing in a graphics editor, something like PaintShop Pro. There are, of course, other options out there, from the freeware versions like GIMP to the more expensive Adobe Illustrator. But I find PaintShop Pro does everything I need it to do and more. I sometimes run the sketch through a vector tracing application. There are several of these freely available on the internet. Once that has been imported into PaintShop Pro, I finish off the image by adding color, highlights, and shadows. So, with a bit of practice, a lot of patience, and above all, plenty of fun, you can doodle away to your heart's content. And who knows, you might create some wonderfully humorous or eye-catching pictures. If you'll let me, I'll take you along on part of the journey with me as I doodle during my spare time. I hope you'll join me in my next video, where you can sit in on one of my doodling sessions. Thank you for watching.